I give glory to your name. Oh Lord, glory to your name. Oh Lord, for your name is great and greatly to be praised. Give them praise, church.
Glory to God, amen. Can I have Eric open us up this morning? Amen. You can be seated. I'm sorry. What? I'm sorry. I think I had two guys going at once. That's probably my fault. But double prayer never hurt anybody. Can you say amen? Amen. Okay, so we are in part one. Last week was an intro to the Sunday school. Um, I want people to kind of relax a little bit. This isn't your uh, average Sunday school in the sense of where it's not about spanking and discipline, and we're going to touch on some of those things, but this Sunday school is designed more in um, the issues that arise when you don't put the proper foundations inside of your home, okay? And so discipline, you know, saying no, all those types of things are, you know, things that we normally teach about, and they should be, and we're going to touch on them. But the Sunday school is more, if you remember last week, the intro was that raising your kids starts where? At home, right? And I also said, you know, it's not the church's responsibility to teach your kids how to behave, right? It's our responsibility to teach them about God. And one of the reasons that parents get upset a lot in church is because other people tell their kids what to do, right? I don't need any amens this morning. I'm just like I'm talking, right? So I have a solution to that, and I believe it'll fix that problem really quick. If you don't like other people telling your kids what to do, then you tell them what to do. It's your responsibility to make sure that your kids aren't running all over the place, that your kids aren't jumping, that your kids aren't, right? I dare you to go and try to do that at a Catholic church. You don't see it, right? And so, you know, I know we're a big family. We love each other. We'll help each other out, you know, in looking at each other's kids. But at the end of the day, people get so upset because someone told their kid what to do, or someone went up to them and said, "Hey, it would be a good idea if you kind of kept an eye on your kid." Oh, how dare them? I can't believe that they would say, you know. And so, if you don't like people telling you what to do, then do what you're supposed to do, right? And that's the way you solve that problem. But like I said, we're not preaching on that this morning. So this morning is about removing failure, okay? The dangers of removing failure. And I have a few scriptures that I need to be read. Genesis 27, 1 through 9 is our main text. I'm going to have Richard Marmaduke do that for us. Genesis 27, 1 through 9, that's going to be our main text. Genesis 21, 1 through 3. I saw Eric's hand up. Genesis 21, 1 through 3. I need Genesis 25, 27. Some ladies, okay. Jordan, Genesis 25, 27 through 28. Is that what I said? Yeah. No, it's not? It is? I just said 20. Okay, so Jordan is going to read for us. Wait. 25, 27 through 28. Thank you so much, Belinda. Genesis 37, verses 3 and 4. Okay, Mike, I need verse 9 from our main text to be read. Genesis 27, verse 9. Okay, Miss Irma, verse 9. And then I need let me see. Hebrews 12:11. Hebrews 12:11. Okay, Gracie, thank you. Hebrews 12:11. And I need Proverbs 23:13 through 14. Okay, Alex, if you can please get that for us. Proverbs 23:13 through 14. And that's the last one. Okay, I'm going to have to do 2 studies on this first one, and then we will get into the other 11. Okay, removing failure, right? The dangers of removing failure is what this Sunday school is going to be about. I read an interesting story, and the story was about a dad who had a 3-year-old boy. And so, the dad did what most dads do when they have 3-year-old sons, is he took him out to the backyard and started pitching the ball at him, hoping that, hey, he's going to be the next, Derek, whatever, or I don't know, baseball players. I don't know baseball at all. Anybody famous baseball players that can hit the ball? Who? That's what I was trying to say. What did I say right now? I said Derek, right? Okay, Derek Jeter. Is that what you said? Okay, so apparently this guy can hit the ball without steroids, and so he's hoping, man, this is the next Derek Jeter, right? And so he's throwing at him, nothing. Keeps throwing at him, nothing. He's out there for 2 hours, and the guy cannot get his 3-year-old son to hit the ball. Finally, he gets close enough to him, pitches it, tells him swing, and he hits it. He's so excited, but he thinks this was probably an accident. And so the son gets so excited, he gets excited with him. So the son's like, again, right? How many know kids? Again, and so now he's got to figure out a way to get his son to keep hitting the ball. So he practically puts it right in front of him, and he just keeps hitting it, and he keeps telling him, man, you're great. You're going to be an awesome baseball player one day, and all this stuff. Just keeps pumping him up, and eventually the kid believes that he's a really good baseball player. This is his dream. This is what he wants to do now. And so he's in the 4th grade, decides to join baseball, and he totally sucks. And so he can't hit the ball, he can't catch the ball, he can't throw the ball. Everybody is laughing at him, and so he comes home just so discouraged, man, and hurt because people were laughing at him. But he was also upset at his dad because his dad told him that he was good, and when he really wasn't. The dad says the reason that he did that was because he didn't want to damage his ego. He didn't want to hurt his feelings, and so he told him that he was good for that very reason. How many know every parent wants to see their kids succeed in school, right? In sports, in life, but making it impossible to fail is never the answer. Matter of fact, experts tell us that removing failure is a terrific way to stunt maturity in your kids. In other words, they're going to grow up and they're going to get older in age, but remain young in their minds, right? They're going to be very immature. They're going to more than likely throw tantrums. They're going to end up hurting other people in the long run. I wanted to show you this video. I'm not sure if you saw this. A teacher's aide took away a Nintendo Switch from her student, and she's going to go put it up in the office. And the student, who's 6'8", 240 something pounds. Are we ready? Yeah, let's go. So this is the teacher that took the Nintendo Switch. Here comes the 6'8", knocks her out completely right there. This just happened last week. Put her in a hospital. That kid's bail, thank you. That kid's bail is set at $1 million. $1 million. And I believe they're going to try to prove a point with this kid. How many know that's unacceptable? And it happened because the teacher took away his Nintendo Switch. I have no idea what that is. But this is what happens, right, is when we remove failure, when we remove correction, when we remove certain things that have to be implemented in the home, then this is what happens, right? Is that they grow up, they get older, but they never grow up. Very immature, end up hurting people. Someone said this generation is IY. I know we know it is a Y generation. This writer, Elmore, calls it the IY generation. It is no longer accurate to refer to Generation Y as one collective demographic. The millennials the millennials born after 1990 are a whole new a whole new batch of students. We call them Generation IY because our life is dominated by iPhones, iPods, and iTunes. They've been identified as the digital generation, techies, millennials, and screenagers. Screenagers. And so there's a danger, beloved, in not putting the right things into your kid. All you do is let them watch, iPhones, iPads. You don't teach them responsibilities. You're not teaching them, how to deal with life issues. Eventually, that's what happens. Okay? Let's look at our main text. Anybody want to add something here? We haven't even started the text yet, but okay, Miss Iris.
I hadn't seen the video, but I heard that somebody told me that he was challenged, mentally challenged, or he had like some kind of problem, autism.
That he was kind of slow. Yeah.
But I know that I have seen some parents that their child maybe has like mongoloidism or something, but they treat him the same. They, gave him the same punishment, the same, not punishment, what do you call it? Discipline, that's the word, not punishment. And they turn out all right, but a lot of times people feel sorry for their kids because they're slow or they have some kind of challenge.
Yeah.
And so they tend to say, oh, that's all right, he's challenged. And that might have been the case there, that the mother says, oh, he doesn't understand, and that happens.
Yeah, I think they use that as a crutch to lean on because they didn't take the full responsibility of raising that kid. Instead, they put him on meds when he was like 4. Yeah, and so as a result, like you're saying, he actually had done this 3 times before. And so they refused to deal with him at all. And so now he's got $1 million bail. And so, okay, anybody else? You want to add something before we get rocking and rolling? Narcy?
Like how I grew up, my dad was always a perfectionist. So to him, like if I had a 90, he would say, well, I would have gotten 100. So I kind of grew up with the all or nothing mentality. And so I would quit a lot. And when I was in 6th grade, my teacher told me, Narcy, if you quit right now, the rest of your life, you're going to quit everything else. And so I didn't really pay attention to him. And it was true, everything. I dropped out of school and wanted to work and all these things. And I always regretted what he told me and warned me about. And so now as an adult, when I hit walls of failure, I take it like that kid with the tantrum, with hard to deal with, because I never knew how to accept, okay, you failed at it, but just continue, you'll get better. I never processed that as a kid. And so I'm barely starting to do that as an adult. So it's good to fail as a young kid because you learn those coping mechanisms when you grow up. So it's true what you're saying.
Yeah, that's very good, Narcy. And then also that's the other extreme, right, where we can never be good enough for our parents, or parents go the opposite, the complete extreme, right, where your kid never does good enough. You're always expecting more from them, and it's good to challenge them, right, like Narcy ended up ending that story with, but it has to be healthy, right? And so remember last week I said going too soft or going too hard is not the answer. We have to find a balance, and that's what this new Sunday school, I believe, is going to do for us. Okay, very good. Genesis 27, 1 through 9. And I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing here. And so if you can read our main text for us.
Now it came to pass, when Isaac was old and his eyes were so dim that he could not see, that he called Esau his older son and said to him, My son. And he answered him, Here I am. Then he said, Behold, now I am old. I do not know the day of my death. Now therefore, please take your weapons, your quiver and your bow, and go out to the field and hunt game for me, and make me savory food such as I love, and bring it to me that I may eat, that my soul may bless you before I die. Now Rebekah was listening when Isaac spoke to Esau his son, and Esau went to the field to hunt game and to bring it. So Rebekah spoke to Jacob her son, saying, Indeed, I heard your father speak to Esau your brother, saying, Bring me the game and make savory food for me, that I may eat it and bless you in the presence of the Lord before my death. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice according to what I command you. Go now to the flock and bring me there 2 choice kids of the goats, and I will make savory food from them for your father, such as he loves. Then you shall take it to your father, that he may eat it, and that he may bless you before his death.
One more, verse 10. Did I mess it up? Verse 10. Then you shall, okay, before his death, very good. And so we see here in our text that Rebekah ends up manipulating the situation in order to make it easy for her son Jacob. We know Jacob was her favorite. Before we get into this study, I want to point out a couple of things, though, about Isaac and Rebekah. Number one, remember that Isaac was the promised son, right? I want to remind you about Isaac and Rebekah. He was the promised son. Abraham was 100 years old, and Sarah was 90 years old when Isaac was born. Look at verse Genesis 21, 1 through 3. 4. 3.
And the Lord visited Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah as he had spoken. For Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age, at the set time of which God had spoken to him. And Abraham called the name of his son who was born to him, whom Sarah bore to him, Isaac.
So Isaac was the promised son. Rebekah is a woman version of Abraham, in the sense of where she had to leave her family, leave her country. She had to leave all of these things in order to follow God's will. And this being said, it's a shock, right? Isaac and Rebekah, it's a shock and a shame that their children and home turned out to be so dysfunctional, considering who they were, right? You would think out of this home, kids are going to be raised properly. But in reality, it was extremely dysfunctional. And so I think a lot of their problems started off in Genesis 25, 27. Can you read that for me? Genesis 25, 27, and 28. Just follow me.
So the boys grew, and Esau was a skillful hunter, a man of the field, but Jacob was a mild man, dwelling in tents. And Isaac loved Esau because he ate of his game, but Rebekah loved Jacob.
They each had their favorite kid. Side note, you want to cause serious problems in your home, just have a kid that you favor, one kid that you favor more than the other. What's crazy is that Jacob ended up doing the exact same thing that his parents did in his home. Look at Genesis 37, 3 through 4. The problems that are caused when you favor one kid over the other.
Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children because he was the son of his old age. Also, he made him a tunic of many colors. But when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peaceably to him.
Okay, that was just a side note. All that was just a side note, okay? And just a little context of the family there. I want you to kind of understand who they are. Okay, let's get into the study now. Remember, you want to cause serious problems in your home, just favor one kid over the other. And if all you have is one kid, then just favor your kid over your spouse. Anyways, okay. let's look at how parents today love to make it easy for their children, and they go out of their way to remove any kind of failure. Okay, Rebecca is your typical parent that doesn't want to see their kid fail in life. So what she does is she figures out a way to manipulate this situation so that Jacob can receive a blessing instead of using these times in their lives to teach them how to grow from their mistakes and how to trust in God. Remember, your home is a classroom, okay? And so this is very important. How they learn how to deal with God, life's disappointments is all going to begin in our homes. Look at verse 9.
Go now to the flock and bring me from there 2 choice kids of the goats, and I will make savory food from them for your father, such as he loves.
Amen. So she, again, just pointing out, she manipulates the situation. Here's the thing. Far too often, adults, right, parents, intuitively feel that they will ruin their kids' self-esteem if they don't let them fail. Right? Or if we let them fail, sorry. We think they need to feel special. We somehow need to make them believe that they're winners. And we assume this means we can't let them fail. Even when they fail, right? Even when they don't win, we tell them they're still winners. And actually, the opposite is true. Right? Genuine, healthy self-esteem develops when caring adults identify children's strengths, but also allow the satisfaction that comes only from trying and failing. In other words, you need both. Tim Elmore said this: by the 1990s, we had determined to boost self-esteem and ensure kids grew up confident and comfortable in this very uncertain world. Diaper changing tables in public restrooms now signal that these kids are a top priority. Baby on board signs on minivans in the 1990s led to bumper stickers that read, "My kid is a super kid," or "My kid made the honor roll." When they play soccer or Little League baseball, every kid gets a trophy, win or lose, just for being on the team. If you go to kids' bedrooms, their bedrooms are full of ribbons and trophies of championships that they did not win, but they got a trophy anyways. Not that they didn't place, right? I have second place ribbons in my office that I won in certain things. I placed. These kids didn't even play. Their team didn't even win, but they got a championship trophy. Not only that, but we're obsessed with kids' safety today. You know, when we were kids, we drank from the manguera, right? We drank from the water hose. I mean, we turned on the water, we drank it. We ate mud. I mean, I still remember eating mud. We ate stuff off the trees. I mean, we ate our boogers. There was just certain things, that we just, my mom, if you weren't home in time for dinner, you didn't eat. And whatever she made on the table, it was for everybody. She didn't make something different for my dad and then something different for me and something different for their brothers and something different. Everybody ate the exact same thing, but also if you missed it and it was put up and the kitchen was clean, you were not going to eat. I knew that. Therefore, I tried my best to be home to eat, or I ate something. You know what else my mom wouldn't do for me? She wouldn't get me out of jail. Never, not one time. And so I tried my best to not go to jail because I knew she wasn't going to get me out. It didn't work sometimes, but I still knew. This is the generation of parents that don't want to fracture their kids' egos or self-esteem. Right? And so I said last week, a lot of those reasons has to do with because how strict we were raised, or sometimes because of the way we were beat when we were kids. But listen to Hebrews 12:11.
Now, no chastening seems to be joyful for the present, but painful. Nevertheless, afterward it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it.
Amen. That's powerful. It yields righteousness to those who have been trained by it. I mean, we freak out, man. Today, this generation freaks out over the fact that their kids are stressing. I hear that a lot. Man, I feel so bad for my kid because they're stressing. I feel so bad for my kid. Remember that stress builds character, right? I was reading an article about what they're doing today in schools now is that teachers can't grade papers with red ink anymore. And the reason is because when students see red ink, they stress out, they freak out. It's overwhelming for them. And so they don't want kids to freak out anymore, so they remove the red ink, right? This is something that they feel needs to be removed because of the stress that it causes. Listen, if your kid's freaking out over red ink, there's some serious issues. And so as a result, we are raising very emotional and weak children. They can't handle anything in life. We're failing them as parents by trying to make everything easy for them and by never saying no to them. Right? We end up raising kids like this that can't handle someone saying no to them, can't handle somebody removing something from their life. Like the opening story, we're trying to make it easier and easier for them to be able to hit the ball. And the whole time we're telling them that they're great. We tell our kids that they are good when they actually are bad. We tell our kids that they are winners when they are actually failing. Why do we do this as parents? Well, I believe, number one, our problem is that we assume our kids are too fragile and they really can't handle failing and bouncing back in life. Right? You're looking at your kid and you're thinking, man, they can't handle it, so I'm just going to do it for them. If they fail, they're going to be shattered, they're going to be discouraged, and I don't want that to happen. But what the guy in the book is saying is that eventually life is going to challenge them. And if all you did was tell them that they were good and never challenged them, never allowed them to learn from their mistakes, then when they get out there, they're not going to be able to handle life. So we put the ball right where they can hit it. We make it easy for them. It's like celebrity parents that tried buying their kids degrees, right? So that their kids can say that they went to a certain college or that, they got certain grades. And so, our kids begin to go through things and we want to step in. We want to rescue them. We want to fight their battles. When in reality, we should be teaching them to build a relationship with God, to learn how to wait for an answer, and to teach them to wait for God to break through in their lives. Because if you teach them that when they're young, they're going to have that faith when they're older to believe God for their own troubles. We forget that most things in life are learned the hard way. But yet somehow when we're raising our children, we remove that. You can't buy character. You can't buy character for your kids. You can't buy sociable skills. These are things that you have to put into them, that you have to teach them. You have to teach them how to deal with problems, how to deal with different things in life. And you have to also step back and leave them alone. Well, what if they fail? Then they failed. But you're going to also now teach them how to get up. It won't break them. They're not going to be crushed. if you teach them well and learn to challenge them and to discipline, to teach them to discipline their lives. Look at Proverbs 23:13 through 14.
Do not withhold correction from a child, for if you beat him with the rod, he will not die. You shall beat him with the rod and deliver his soul from hell.
Amen. I didn't hear no amens. Yeah, that word today sounds real aggressive, right? If you beat them with a rod. When I first heard that scripture, I was like, yeah, that's an awesome scripture. Today it's like they've already conditioned you, right, to not discipline your kid. They want to put them on meds. They don't want you to teach your kids how to be responsible. Right? They don't want you to teach them how to deal with setbacks and failures. Did you know that right now throughout America, they are removing all the big slides and jungle gyms, now monkey bars from our parks? They don't. So the idea, parents are complaining that they don't want their kids to fall and hurt themselves or break something. And so they started removing them. You can look this up, man. They started removing them all over America in cities and different parks. And so now they just want little slides, and they want bars that they can climb, but they have to pick up their feet. If they still, they don't have to jump up at the bar and then begin to. And so what they're finding out is this is a huge mistake. Because when they're 3, 4 years old, they're learning from their falls. They're learning how to accomplish certain challenges in life. They're learning, at that age, they're learning how to conquer their fears. And so they're realizing that this is actually raising very, very weak children, because the parent is removing every obstacle of any opportunity, any chance where they could possibly hurt themselves. How many remember, man, we used to climb trees? My grandpa would pass by and say, you better come down, te vas a caer, and then he'd walk away. Right? You better come down or there's a chance you're going to fall. And then he'd just leave. He never knew if I fell. A lot of times I did. So we make it easy for our kids, right? We pay their loans. We pay buy their houses. We buy their cars. We don't challenge boys to move out anymore, to grow up and be men. Because life's too hard. You expect, right? You expect my son to work a job and go to school and live on his own? Yeah. My oldest daughter did it. And she also raised 2 kids. Went to school, worked a full-time job, bought a house. But today, we don't want them to be stressed. Okay, we have something here. Anybody? Well, over here, Sylvia.
When my daughter was young, she was maybe she was like 8 or 9 years old, and she would come home and she would be like with her self-esteem just so low. And that's one thing that I have always like on my kids. I would never like to see them, self-esteem low, like I have never been like that. So I would, and she would come and she would go, well, they're making fun of me because I have a lot, because she was very hairy on her arms. They call me Wolf and they call me this, and And, like, and then I go, whoa, you're not a wolf, like, and tell him, at least I'm not going to be cold in the winter. You need to learn how to defend yourself, because if you come with that face to the house, I'm going to beat you. You hear me? And I mean, maybe that was but I didn't like that, like, and every time, like something, like she would put her down or stuff like that, like, I would always try, not help her out, but and yes, sometimes I would tell her things to say to those kids, but they were not right. But it's still, like, I would tell her, well, tell her that it's for the winter so you won't be cold or stuff like that, But thank God, she never had that, like, I never tried to have them with their self-esteem very low. I always tried to pick up that, because I didn't have that, so I didn't want that for them either, like, and I would tell them, I'll beat you if you come, like, with low self-esteem. I'll give you something to be sad about, like.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't, we're kind of old school Mexicans, for those of you that are watching online. And so there was a lot of beating when we were younger. So we don't do that now, just in case CPS is watching right now. But that was way back then. And so we tend to make things easy for them. Now, for those of you that are hearing, immediately you're going to go home and that's it, you're out of here. It's like, have a plan, have a goal. If your kid has a goal, praise God for that, amen. But just to kind of let them think that they can just mooch off of you for the rest of their life is not healthy for them, right? There has to be some goals in life. There has to be some things that they're obviously trying to accomplish, and so be careful with that. The second thing is that moms and dads frequently turn their children into their trophies, right? They see their children. I'm sorry, Angel. I just remembered. Go ahead. I'm sorry. We'll go back
a little bit more on that whole self-esteem. We're living in a time where they're already trying to get rid of GT classes in schools. A lot of states are already passing that, get rid of the GT because it makes the other kids feel bad. And so we're creating a society where people are going to become so dependent on the state, so dependent because they're being given the bare minimum.
Yeah.
But the ironic thing is that many of the politicians who are voting these policies into play, that give everybody a trophy, we don't want anybody feeling bad. Their own children, the private schools they go to, they don't even have internet. They don't even have computer if they want to do a research paper, they have to go to the library. They have to study hard, and they have to really grind to make the grades so they can get into these prestigious schools. But yet everybody else in public school, they're making it so easy because we're literally going to get a society that is so laid down and everything done for them that when the Antichrist comes, it's going to be just easily accepted.
Yeah.
It's like a long-term plan that is taking place, and it's social engineering. It's not only happening in America; it's happening actually all over the world.
Yeah.
But the prestigious and the wealthy, the ones that are going to rule the ruling class, they're putting their kids through. They're making them work the grade. They're making them do the hard work.
Yeah.
Because they know they're going to rule, and they're going to have a whole bunch of just people who have no pride, have no self-esteem, don't know how to accomplish anything from start to finish. And it's happening. We're seeing it. They're already removing, like I said, challenging classes from public school because it makes other kids feel bad or makes them feel less.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, and not teaching them to, like you said, finish something they started, how to conquer something, right? How to, there's a ranch in Austin. If you want to catch a big bass, you want your kid, you have to pay a lot of money for it, but you get to take your kid and they drop it and they're going to catch this massive bass and put it on a plaque and it's a trophy. And so every time, your kid looks at that, he thinks he's a great fisherman. So anyways, it's to teach your kids to really fish. Amen. And so, and if we could, there's obviously time you help kids, right? but always bailing them out, paying their stuff, it gets difficult, especially when they have kids, right? Because now you're looking at your grandkids, and everything in you wants to save them. Everything in you wants to rescue them. I offered my oldest daughter to let me please raise her 3 kids, and then she can keep going to school. She wants to be a doctor. You go to school, and then, when you're done, you can have them back. And she really won't be able to, because it'll take her whole life to become a doctor. And I already raised the kids, and they can go on their own, right? But, that's not the answer. And so I have to trust God. I pray for her. I believe God for her. Amen. Help her whenever I can. Okay, moms and dads. Anybody else on that? Oh, sorry, Daniel and Beto.
I remember one time Pastor William and I were eating at a restaurant, and we're talking about raising kids. I was pretty much saying it's not enough to just provide for your kids or necessarily be there for your kids, but teach them important lessons that they're going to be able to be, independent adults. And right next to us, there's a guy looking at me. He's like looking at us, and I figured, man, I don't want to make eye contact because I don't know what this guy believes. Like, we're talking about church, disciplining our children. And so we get up and we go to go pay, and this guy, he comes up right behind us, and he gets our attention. He goes, "Hey, I heard what you were saying, and I just want to say that everything you're saying is right. My son, I gave him everything he wanted all his life, and his life is pretty much ruined, and he hates me. I gave him everything. He has a sports car and everything." And there's tears like in his eyes, and so we invited him to church. But to me, I was just like, wow, there's people out there who have lived with regret because they just gave so much to their kids that their lives are ruined pretty much.
Yeah, life will either humble your kid if all you do is, if you do everything for them, or they're gonna live off of you for the rest of their life. Okay, Beto.
Yeah, even before we started coming to church, as early as I can remember, my parents, they never made it easy for me. Yes, they would help me when they needed to, but they never did everything for me. I had to figure things out. I had to keep the grades up at school. I remember one time when a teacher called my mom in 6th grade, I knew that when I got home I was going to get it, and I got it when I got home. They raised me that way, and I'm very grateful for that. I remember when I was in 11th grade, I came to you after one service for prayer, and I said, "Pastor, I need some guidance. I have all these classes at school, all these AP classes. On top of that, I have band practice with school after school, and then I have to come here for ministries." And I said, I don't know, I think I should drop a ministry or two. I don't know what to do. And I remember you telling me that, maybe God is just preparing you for something, like all this pressure and stress. God's preparing you for something. And I went up there so that I can get out of ministry, and I walked away with you just praying for me that God's going to help you.
Turned out to be a real good...
Yeah. And so a year and a half later from that time, I was already married, and I was the door director. And so that just showed me being raised all through school and all that, having to figure things out, and sometimes a little stress and pressure is good. It helps you, because when you're an adult and you're out of the school system, it's no more, let me just get a 70 to pass. It's real life now.
Yeah.
And so that really helped me, and I always remember that day, that when I went up to you in that prayer, and that was a big, I guess, pivotal point in my life, that I realized, maybe in life you're gonna have a lot of things that are gonna weigh on you, and it helped me learn that I have to trust God and cry out to God in prayer and all that. So
yeah, you found out that you can handle stress. I am blown away at, if I could give a comment to commend Beto and Gracie on their kids. Amen. They Beto, Eric, and Monica, outstanding kids. One of the things that I really appreciate, I wish they would even maybe one day write a book on this, on how they do it. They have taught their kids to respect and have a relationship with their parents, but also with their pastor. And that's very rare. Usually, if they have a real good relationship with their parents, they won't have a relationship with their pastor. And a lot of times parents don't know how to teach that. And there's a lot of families like that in this church, where you trust God with the church, right, with the discipleship. You're not rescuing them every time pastor gets after them or has to speak into their lives, and you allow the church to disciple them, but yet you have a very powerful relationship with your kids. That is very rare in today's world. It really is, right? And so I do want to commend just Beto and Gracie. They've done an outstanding job. Beto, coming on staff, has learned that he could even handle more now than he used to when he was 17. Okay. Number 2 is moms and dads frequently turn their children into their trophies, right? In other words, they see their children as reflections of their own success, right? So if every kid is a winner, right, or every kid is a winner, so mom and dad can be winners too, right? It's a reflection. We look better, and there's no mess. And when they leave home, it's, well, I don't know what happened. In my house, they were always winning, right? But again, we didn't teach them the proper things in life. And then number 3, and I believe this is true for every parent, it's difficult to watch your kids fail. It's painful, isn't it? It's painful to watch them go through something, and you have to step back and say, God, I can change this. I can do something. I can help, right? I can manipulate this. I know people. But God, I want them to learn to have a relationship with you. And so I'm going to, as painful as this is, I'm going to step back and watch my kids suffer, endure pain and stress, so that you can give them a way out. And I'm telling you, man, it's powerful, beloved, when you do that. It's super hard, extremely powerful. It's painful to watch your children fail when, something as simple as sports or an assignment they've been given. I think you'd all admit that you'd like your kids to succeed all the time. It's much easier to watch. But as parents, we're the ones that are failing them when we do everything for our kids. When our kids fail, it can feel like it's our fault. That we as parents, we didn't do something right. Everything we did was wrong. So the temptation is to make it easy for them all the time. And so this was the first point. Next week, we're going to cover the consequences of what we are creating. Because we're creating something by raising our kids this way, right? Always rescuing them, always fighting for them, always bailing them out, never letting them struggle. We're creating something, and it's going to look very similar to that kid that we saw in the opening video. Okay, anybody have something here? We have a couple of minutes. Orlando and Magda, man.
Pastor, I'd like to just put a plug in for anybody listening to, you definitely need to come to this class, to this Sunday school, whether they're watching online or you're here or you have a friend. We're living in a world, a lot of these things that men are weak in our society today. I already know that. And this is not something that I'm just saying, this is something our society is saying. These are the kind of things that I research and read about. I work with a lot of men, and there's a lot of root causes. Fatherlessness is one of the main ones. Nobody taught us. And that's exactly what we have today. Our society knows this. And I'm going to read you a quote that you probably know. In fact, I know you do. But this is what the reality that's happening, and that's why our country and our society is going down. And that is because tough times create strong men, right? That's happened in our depression. Strong men create easy times, right? There was a quote. I don't know who that was from, but it's powerful. And easy times create weak men, which is what's happening now And it's been happening for years. They've warned us from the 80s about this. Because weak men create tough times. And the tough times that we're living in our society today are, if you don't get it, like you were mentioning a little while ago, you have to get it. Men have to get it. Parents have to get it. And it's not an easy task. So I would encourage people to think about these things. Well, you know, how are we raising our kids? How were you raised? Are you wrong? And, you know, I have several scriptures I can give you that I've been studying this. But we definitely have weak men.
Yeah.
And that's why I challenge men so much in my class.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, and that's a great quote. And of course, you know, it's not just boys we're raising, but girls. And so it's true for both, right? My daughters make fun of me. I think they even gave me a Christmas coffee cup that says, what does it say, Amanda? Do you remember? Thank you, Dad, for raising us to be great sons, even though we're your daughters. Yeah. Something like that. Okay, go ahead. Over here. Magda.
No, I just wanted to share that as a junior high teacher, math teacher, it's difficult, you know, to teach seventh graders and because some of the students do not do their assignments, so they don't get a grade, so they get a 0, and so they end up failing the 6 weeks. And I talk to them, and they're still failing, and they continue failing. And so other teachers, they tell me, just give them the grade, just pass them, you know. You don't want administration to be on you. I said, no, if they want to pass, they got to work hard. They got to, because in life, you have to work hard for you to be successful. So if these kids, they want to be successful, well, they need to pass. And so other teachers, they feel guilty because some other kids are failing. No, I'm just going to fluff up their grade so that they can pass. And I'm saying, no, I'm not going to pass them. If they don't do the work, they don't pass. Ni modo. Work hard.
Thank you for that. Amen. There's good teachers. Very, very good. Anybody else? Okay, we're going to finish this first study next Sunday, and I'm going to just give you a little fair warning. It's going to be pretty intense, okay? So we're going to look at the consequences of always removing failure from your kids, okay? All right, let's get ready for service.